The doors hissed, shut one after another, their metallic thud echoing in her chest like a series of tiny deaths. Lyra Vale had once been brilliant. Once, the youngest xenobiologist to ever decode a seraph neural lattice. The woman who'd stood in the council chambers and demanded justice for human laborers sold to alien corporations. Now she was nothing. 3 weeks without a real meal. Oxygen credits dwindling. Skin stretched tight over bones. Hair like dull wires. She'd gone from job portal to job portal, begging for anything. Cargo runner, cleaner, even waste recycler. Each AI interface scanned her ID and turned cold. Blacklisted. They didn't even bother to explain anymore. As she stood in the neon-lit corridor of Archon Station's last employment hub, stomach knotting with hunger, Lyra made a choice. One that clawed at her soul. The unmarked door down the hall wasn't on any map, but she'd heard rumors. Desperate humans finding work there. Work that paid in oxygen and protein rations. Work that required surrendering everything. This is your last door, she told herself. If it closes, so do you. She stepped forward, and the door opened. The last door. The stars beyond the viewport were dying. Even from here, orbiting the Seraph-dominated Archon Station, Lyra could see the faint shimmer of solar storms devouring the nearby system. It felt poetic somehow, a mirror of her own slow collapse. She tugged her tattered coat tighter, trying to trap what little heat remained in her oxygen pod rations. The air recyclers had been coughing for days. Soon they'd shut off completely, and then she'd join the others. Drifting corpses jettisoned from the station into the void. Lyra's boots clicked against the cracked polymer floor of the employment hub. The line here was thin. Most humans had already learned there was nothing left for them. But not her. Not yet. The AI recruiter's interface blinked to life, scanning her credentials. Its synthetic voice was almost kind as it delivered the final blow. Lyra Vale. Employment status. Blacklisted. All applications denied. "I'll take anything," she whispered. Her throat felt raw. Sanitation. Hazard mining. Companion work. No matches found. Please vacate. The booth powered down. She stood frozen for a moment, then turned. Down the dim corridor, past the official hubs, an unmarked door pulsed faintly red. She'd heard whispers. Work that didn't require credentials. Work that came with a price. Every door had closed. This was her last. She stepped toward it. The doors had stopped opening for Lyra Vale weeks ago. On Archon Station, they didn't slam shut with the satisfying finality of old Earth wood and iron. No, these doors whispered closed. Soft hisses of hydraulics, magnetic seals locking tight, and yet each one felt like a hammer blow to her ribs. She used to walk these corridors with purpose, the youngest xenobiologist in the outer colonies, a rising star. Her work had once graced holoconferences across 3 systems. Now she drifted like space debris, thin, hollow-eyed, hands shaking from hunger and humiliation. The employment hub smelled of recycled air and despair. A handful of humans loitered in line ahead of her. Bodies slouched, faces gaunt. She recognized 1 or 2, people she'd seen at protests years ago, back when they still believed humans could demand fair contracts from the Seraph conglomerates. Now those same voices were hoarse from begging. Lyra's boots stuck slightly to the grime-caked floor as she shuffled forward. The automated recruiter, a sleek black column crowned by a glowing interface, scanned her ID before she even reached it. Lyra Vale. Employment status. Blacklisted. Her heart lurched. She'd seen this message dozens of times, but the sting never dulled. "I'll take anything," she croaked. "Sanitation or hauling, biomass disposal. I don't care. I'll even take companion work." Her voice broke on the last words. The AI paused, not in consideration. She knew Button calculation. No matches found. Please vacate. The booth went dark. The man behind her coughed softly. Don't bother arguing, he muttered. If you're blacklisted, you're dead already. Only thing left's the red door. Lyra turned her head slightly. The red door. But he'd already moved on, shoulders hunched. She staggered away from the recruiter, her pulse pounding in her temples. Blacklisted. Ever since she'd exposed the Saratha's illegal human experimentation 3 years ago, every company had locked her out. Her credentials flagged. Her research erased. Her stomach cramped painfully. 3 days since her last real meal. Oxygen credits running low. Soon the air in her pod would stop flowing, and she'd suffocate like the others. I can't die like this. Her eyes caught a faint glow in the shadows down the hall. An unmarked door. Red light pulsing faintly around its edges. No signage. No line. Just a rumor wrapped in desperation. They said it wasn't employment in the traditional sense. It was something else. A contract that paid in food and oxygen, but at a cost. Your dignity. Your body. Your humanity. She stumbled closer, drawn like a moth. The door's sensor flickered as she approached. She could almost hear the whispered warnings of those who'd vanished into it. Some never returned. Others did, changed, hollow-eyed, clutching ration packets like holy relics. Lyra hesitated. She could turn back, beg in the corridors, steal from supply drones, and risk execution. Or, this was her last door. If it closed, so would she. She raised a trembling hand. The door hissed open, and a voice, not mechanical, but rich and strangely melodic, slid out to meet her. Enter, Lyra Vale. We have been expecting you. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, sealing Lyra into a world of muted light and alien stillness. The air was warmer here, tinged with an unfamiliar floral scent that seemed to bloom and fade in her lungs. The walls curved organically, smooth and luminous like the inside of a seashell. This was no human-made structure. Lyra's boots made no sound on the floor as she took a tentative step forward. Lyra Vale. The voice came again, rich, low, carrying a resonance that seemed to vibrate in her chest. It wasn't just sound. It was presence. She turned. He was standing in the center of the room. Tall, impossibly tall. His frame slender yet powerful, draped in iridescent fabrics that shifted color as he moved. His skin, a pale silver, caught the ambient light like liquid metal, and his eyes, they were obsidian pools, depthless and unblinking. Keelan of the Seraph. She'd studied his species once, back when she was still a xenobiologist, telepathic, psionically active, and cursed with a bioelectric field so volatile they couldn't touch their own kind without sparking lethal feedback. And now one of them stood before her, his gaze unreadable. "You came," he said softly. "Good. Sit." Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to run, but hunger and fear rooted her in place. She lowered herself onto the offered cushion. "Do you know why you're here?" Keelan asked. To work." Her voice cracked. "The red door. It's a companion contract, isn't it?" "Companion," he echoed, tilting his head. "That is the human euphemism. You believe I desire your body." She flushed with shame, clenching her fists in her lap. "Isn't that why humans come here?" Keelan studied her in silence. His eyes flicked over her frail frame, the trembling in her hands. "No, I require something far more valuable than flesh." Lyra swallowed hard. "What then?" "Your resilience." She blinked. "Resilience? You are human. Your nervous systems are primitive, yet astonishingly adaptive. You can survive proximity to Seraph bioelectricity without cellular breakdown. We cannot." Lyra's scientist brain stirred, even as her fear grew. "You want to study me?" "Yes." Prolonged exposure, Physical contact, neural mapping. He took a step closer. I will not violate you, but there will be pain. Her breath hitched. And in return, food, oxygen, shelter, as long as you endure. Endure. Such a simple word, yet heavy with unspoken meaning. She had no options left. When do we start? She whispered. Keelan's black eyes seemed to soften. Now. He extended a hand. Touch me. Her instinct screamed to recoil. Every human knew the stories. Seraph biofields, fried circuits, cooked flesh. But his voice held her steady. Slowly, trembling, Lyra reached out. Her fingers hovered an inch from his silver skin. A strange heat radiated from him, prickling her palm. Then, with the lightest brush, she touched him. A jolt shot through her arm. Sharp, but not unbearable. Sparks danced across her skin like electric fireflies. She gasped, but didn't pull away. Incredible, Keelan murmured. Your cells are resisting degradation. The sensation intensified, pins and needles, then deep ache in her muscles. Sweat beaded on her brow. Pain, he asked. Yes, she hissed. Endure. Her jaw tightened. You've survived worse, she told herself. The hunger, the cold, the isolation. This was just another trial. Finally, he withdrew his hand. The pain ebbed, leaving her arm tingling. You lasted longer than expected. Lyra slumped, breathing hard. How long do I have to do this? Until we understand why you survive and whether we can. She stared at him, chest heaving. You're trying to save your people. Yes. His voice grew quieter. But perhaps I will save you as well. Lyra didn't know if it was a threat or a promise. All she knew was that she had traded one kind of survival for another, and there was no going back. The first time Lyra touched Keelan, it felt like drowning in stars. The second time, it felt like fire. Each session was a test of her limits. At first it was just her hand against his, then palm to forearm, then skin against the sleek curve of his throat. Each contact sent bioelectric currents skittering through her body. Painful, yes, but no longer the searing agony she had feared. Her cells adapted faster than Keelan expected, faster than she expected. You are remarkable, he said one evening as she slumped against the cushion, sweat soaking her threadbare shirt. No, she panted, just desperate. He tilted his head. Desperation can drive evolution. She tried to laugh, but winced at the ache in her chest. Is that what I am to you? A biological anomaly? Keelan's obsidian gaze held hers. You are more than anomaly, Lyra Vale. You are possibility. The days blurred together in the soft-lit chamber. She no longer knew how long she had been in his care. Food arrived without asking. Her oxygen rations were restored. For the first time in weeks, she slept without fear of suffocating in her pod. But her dreams were strange. She dreamt of cool, silver hands tracing the lines of her face, of a voice like warm thunder whispering her name, of a longing that curled like smoke in her chest. She woke trembling, but not from fear. You're changing too, she said one night, watching him as he recorded neural data on a translucent console. Keelan paused. Explain. You're softer. At first, you wouldn't even look at me unless it was to issue an instruction. Now you ask if I'm in pain. You bring food I like. You sit closer. His expression didn't change, but the faintest ripple crossed his biofield, an emotional tell she'd learned to recognize. Perhaps proximity works both ways, he admitted. Perhaps I am adapting to you. Or perhaps you're lonely. That made him freeze. For the first time, Keelan looked almost fragile. The Seraph cannot touch each other without fatal consequences, he said quietly. We have not known true intimacy in centuries. It is forbidden to even desire it. Lyra's throat tightened. And yet you want it. His silence was answer enough. The next session was different. Not your hand this time. Keelan murmured. Your face. Touch my face. Her heart hammered. The vulnerability of the gesture wasn't lost on her. She reached out, fingertips brushing the smooth planes of his cheek. A surge of energy pulsed through her like a heartbeat, stronger than before, but not painful. Almost warm. Keelan closed his eyes. His breath, barely perceptible before, hitched. Your species, he said softly, takes touch for granted. You do not know what it means to go lifetimes without it. She swallowed. Maybe that's why we fight so hard to keep it. To be human is to reach for someone, even when it burns. Later, when the session ended, Keelan lingered by the doorway as she gathered herself. You endured longer again, he said. I'm learning, she replied. And you make me forget I should not want this. Their eyes met. The room seemed to hum with unsaid things. For the first time in years, Lyra didn't feel like a beggar or a blacklisted outcast. She felt seen, and that terrified her more than the pain ever had. The alarms began as a low vibration underfoot, a tremor Lyra first mistook for another of her body's phantom aches. But then the soft chimes escalated into a wailing pulse, filling Keelan's chamber with flickering crimson light. She shot upright on her cushion, heart pounding. What's happening? Keelan was already at the console, fingers dancing across the interface with inhuman speed. His normally serene face was taut with tension. We have been discovered, he said. The words dropped like ice in her stomach. By who? The overseers. They monitor all unauthorized human-Seraph interactions. I underestimated how long we could remain hidden. The thud reverberated through the walls, something heavy slamming against the outer door. Lyra scrambled to her feet. You told me this was safe. It was, Keelan said, his voice unnervingly calm, until we became careless. She stared at him, the memories of late nights and tentative touches rushing back. We, not just her desperation, not just his research. They, and now it might kill them both. Can't you shut them out? Lock the door, she asked. Keelan's fingers froze. The red door isn't designed to withstand a Seraph strike team. It was only ever meant to be a place of refuge. Another impact shook the room. Lyra stumbled against the wall, catching herself on a cool, shell-like curve. Then we fight, she said. Keelan turned sharply, surprise flickering in his obsidian eyes. You are human, fragile. You cannot. I can think. And right now thinking is what we need. Lyra's mind raced. The Seraph strike teams operated like living networks, psionically linked. That link was their strength, and maybe their weakness. You said your people can't touch each other without bioelectric overload, she said quickly. What if we give them something to amplify that overload? Keelan's brow furrowed. Explain. I've spent weeks adapting to your energy field, but your soldiers haven't adapted to mine. She held up her hands, still faintly tingling from their last session. If I make physical contact with even one of them, could the feedback cascade through their link? For a heartbeat, Keelan looked at her like a student witnessing a master's insight. Then he nodded. Theoretically, yes. The human nervous system is chaotic. It could disrupt their coherence. Then let's make theory practice. The outer door buckled inward, a glowing fracture forming down its center. Keelan moved toward her, silver skin flashing with bioelectric arcs. This will hurt, he warned. To carry enough charge, I must infuse your cells directly. Lyra swallowed hard. Do it. His hands cupped her face. A surge of energy roared through her like a solar flare, burning every nerve, but she bit down a scream. Her muscles locked, then loosened as the pain gave way to raw power, her skin now crackling faintly with Keelan's biofield. Go, he said hoarsely, and do not let them touch you unprepared. The door shattered, for Seraph soldiers stormed in, their sleek armor refracting the dim light. "There!" One hissed in their language. "Contain the human." Lyra lunged forward before they could form up. Her palm slammed against the lead soldier's bare neck plate. The effect was instant. A blinding arc of blue-white energy erupted between them, snapping down the soldier's neural link and into the others. Screams filled the chamber as the strike team convulsed, their psionic bond fracturing under the feedback. Lyra fell to her knees, panting, the taste of ozone thick in her mouth. When the light faded, the soldiers lay motionless. Not dead, she prayed, but incapacitated. Keelan was at her side in an instant, hands hovering without touching. "You shouldn't have survived that. No human should." Lyra managed a weak grin. "Maybe I'm not just human anymore." The chamber's emergency lights flared green. For now, they were safe. But Lyra knew it was temporary. The overseers would send more. Stronger. Smarter. "We can't stay here," she said. Keelan's obsidian eyes burned with something fierce. Admiration, longing, resolve. "No. We run. Together." For the first time since she stepped through the red door, Lyra didn't feel like prey. She felt like a weapon. The corridor beyond the red door was a labyrinth of organic curves and flickering lights. The air felt thicker here, charged with tension and the faint scent of ozone. Lyra ran at Keelan's side, her lungs burning, legs aching. Every step echoed like a gunshot. "How far to the docking ring?" she gasped. 7 levels up. 32 junctions. If the overseers haven't sealed it, they will, she muttered grimly. Keelan glanced at her, quick, assessing. His expression was unreadable, but his biofield rippled wildly, betraying what she now knew was fear. Not for himself. For her. "Lyra," he said, his voice low and urgent. "If we are intercepted again, you must leave me. Take the escape vessel." "Not a chance. This is not bravery. It is recklessness. I am expendable. You are not." She barked a bitter laugh. "Funny. A few weeks ago, I was the expendable one." They reached a vertical shaft. Keelan's long fingers danced across a control panel, summoning a narrow platform that shimmered into existence. "Step on." As they ascended, Lyra's mind raced. Her muscles still hummed faintly with residual energy from their last encounter with the strike team. Whatever Keelan had done to her, it lingered, making her feel electric, alive in a way she hadn't in years. But it wouldn't last. Her human body wasn't designed for this. She could already feel the faint burn in her fingertips, as though her nerves were fraying. "Keelan," she said softly, watching his profile. "What happens if I keep carrying your energy too long?" He didn't answer. The shaft opened onto a wide junction lined with organic tendrils glowing faint blue. Ahead loomed the docking bay, its translucent doors already cycling through lockdown protocols. They ran. "Stop!" A voice rang out behind them. Lyra spun to see 3 overseers advancing, their robes crackling with psionic charge. These weren't soldiers. They were executioners. "Keelan of the Seraph, you have violated sacred law," the lead overseer intoned. "Surrender the human and stand judgment." Keelan stepped in front of her, his silver frame tensing like drawn steel. "She is under my protection. The human is an anomaly. Dangerous. You know what must be done." "I do." Lyra touched his arm. "No." His obsidian eyes flicked to her. She shook her head, gripping his hand. "Not this time. We fight." The overseers raised their hands, bioelectric energy coalescing into deadly arcs. Lyra didn't wait. She surged forward, her body alight with the charge Keelan had infused into her. Sparks danced across her skin as she slammed both palms to the floor. A shock wave burst outward, disrupting the overseer's psionic link. 2 of them staggered, clutching their heads as their synchronization fractured. But the lead overseer held firm. You meddle with forces you do not understand, human. Maybe, Lyra growled. But that's kind of our thing. The overseer lashed out with a blinding bolt. Keelan moved faster than she thought possible, intercepting it with his own field. The collision sent him skidding backward, his robe smoking. No, Lyra cried. The overseer advanced, but Lyra's rage boiled over. She grabbed a loose conduit sparking with Seraph energy and hurled it at him. The feedback was instantaneous. The overseer's field overloaded, his body convulsing as arcs of energy consumed him. The other two fled. Keelan staggered to his feet. You just defeated an overseer. Lyra exhaled hard, feeling the last of the charge drain from her. Guess I'm full of surprises. He stared at her, truly stared, as if seeing her for the first time. Perhaps it is not my people who need saving, he murmured. Perhaps it is you who will save us all. The docking bay doors began to close. Together they sprinted the final stretch, and Dove through just as the opening narrowed to a slit. Inside, a sleek vessel awaited, its interior glowing faint gold. Keelan helped her into the pilot's chair. Can you operate this? Lyra grinned through exhaustion. You give humans too little credit. Her fingers flew over the controls, and the ship rumbled to life. As they lifted off, alarms flared across the station, but Lyra didn't look back. The stars unfolded before them. Vast, infinite waiting. What now? She asked softly. Keelan's hand found hers, tentative but steady. Now, he said, his voice thick with something she couldn't name. We survive. Together.